Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Thank you so much for tuning to it. I hope this finds you doing well. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free always. Don't miss anything, but if you do, go back, get caught up at your leisure. Of course, we make that possible by posting the program in its conclusion, all 3 hours, on both our webpage and an Apple Podcast. Go find it and get caught up at your convenience. Hello, YouTubers. I hope this finds you doing well. Appreciate the emails. We got lots of them. JCS at 979ESPNradio.com. On Twitter, it's at JCameronShow. WTSM app works for your mobile devices. I think I covered all the bases there. What an interesting time to be covering sports. What an interesting time as we navigate really complicated issues. And I've said before that these are messy and yet necessary conversations. And, you know, it seems like it all turns on a dime. Like it's minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day that you find yourself really trying to kind of figure out what sports means at a time like this, or what you think is right or wrong in all of this, and where your head's at, hopefully open to listening and to thinking and to pondering before responding. That's a big part of this. But then also, you know, having a willingness to express your opinion, hopefully well thought out, well reasoned, measured, fair, and at the same time, be willing to listen to others. And be willing to, upon receiving new information that perhaps enlightens you, to admit you were wrong. That's hard for all of us to do. And or find information that helps validate your point to further the conversation and maybe illuminate something for somebody else. So it's there is no them. There is only us. Only us. So it's and I'm talking about the human race. That's all of us. So it's incumbent upon us as people to figure it out. And obviously, there's a lot of figuring out to do. And, man, it ain't easy. That's for sure. That's one thing. You know, just sit around the offices here and talking with you. You know, Tom, you and I are dear friends. We have grown closer and closer every day that we've worked together over the years, both as cohorts, but also just as people, as golf partners and dear friends. And we frequently disagree and yet respect the hell out of each other's opinions and listen carefully and dutifully. And I do that with many others, just as you do too. And I'm finding that whether it's my best friends, my best, my kids, or my coworkers, whether it's Matthew or anybody else for that matter, I mean, boy, you just learn so much from listening to each other. Just listening to each other. I'm talking about, you know, whether that's a woman or a man or a black person or a white person or a Hispanic person, doesn't matter. Just listening to people from different backgrounds and different belief systems and just listening and talking through these things. Now, right now, it's through the prism of sports, right, and how it relates to greater society and how it relates to our jobs and entertainment and everything else. But, boy, it's weighty. That's what you find. You think, oh, well, I hadn't thought about that, or that's certainly interesting, or that's an aspect I hadn't considered before that now will further inform the way I think about this or that. And you know, what's interesting is that you find yourself, I think sometimes, you know, when you think, like, so for example, you and I were talking about this earlier today, and I asked you because I had read a quote from Draymond Green that I agreed with. And I thought, you know, I think one of the good things about the NBA playoffs, besides the play so far up to this point, is, you know, the NBA has been a league, and Adam Silver has been a commissioner that has listened to his players. He's listened to his owners and his players and his referees and his workers. And I think Adam Silver is spectacular as commissioners go. I think he really is kind of the standard, if you will. If you think about,
you didn't want to call Silver the gold standard.
No,
is that what
you
you're
heard
trying
me
to
catch.
avoid?
Yeah, I caught myself there. But if you think of Roger Goodell and his missteps, or you think about Major League Baseball and how frequently we've had to call them out, Rob Manfred, and I can think about a lot of other commissioners in other sports, Adam Silver's been the guy where you've gone, man, that guy, he gets it. He understands big picture. He's certainly a guy that wants to hear from all parties involved, and he wants to consider the issue very seriously. He sits down with his team owners and his players. There doesn't seem to be – now, listen, you're in business to do business. Whether you're a player or a coach or a referee or a commissioner or an owner, you're there to make money. Now, you can have a lot of other reasons that you play. Love of the game, passion, hard work, whatever your chosen profession.
Yeah. This is why we play doesn't usually follow with dollar signs, but we all know that's why we're playing.
Well, it's a big part of it, right? So that's also what makes this a very complicated issue. Controlling those dollars, figuring out what to do in the midst of all of this upheaval and how best to affect change and all that. This is the part of the larger conversation. So Adam Silver, to my point, has been a forward-thinking, very fair-minded commissioner. And one of the cool things that I think has occurred, I see it with my own kids, hell, I saw it with my father, of watching playoff basketball. First of all, the games have been good. We've seen a lot of really heart-stopping moments, incredible moments. We think of the Luka shot, but we think of the LeBron performance. You talk about a resounding response to being called out after they lose to Portland. You think about now the Clippers' subsequent response after the Luka shot and some of the things that have happened. Yeah, that was hey, get you some, enough of this nonsense. But Denver, Utah, there have been so many series. Boston's played exceptionally well, very quietly. Maybe it's because they just pounded the frauds that are Philadelphia, so we didn't give them any credit. But as we went through all of this, the messaging that occurred within the bubble for those that are open to it allowed for, I think, further education of the root causes and the reasons for speaking out and the Black Lives Matter movement and further illuminating that, right? And you may have had a cursory understanding of how that works, but I think if you watched the playoffs and you saw the messaging and the conversations, the pre-games, the coaches' interviews pre- and post-game, players able to speak out, having that platform through basketball to be able to, again, further shed light on greater causes than the sport of basketball. And while that was happening, I thought, man, this is really good. We were talking, you brought up the point, it was your phrasing, so I'll give you credit. You were saying that it's informed a new baseline understanding, right? The idea of the victims of racism and police violence probably reached a larger group of people than ever before because of that platform. So Breonna Taylor became known to a lot of people because they're basketball fans and they watched the games and then they heard her name and they researched the story on their own. Almost universally, I think by now I would think that an informed citizen has heard of George Floyd, but you may not have heard of other lesser-known cases. And I think the bubble and these playoffs have helped present that to a larger group of people. And Draymond Green's point, and a lot of people disagree with him, and you may disagree with me agreeing with him, I don't know, was that, well, you wouldn't want to stop playing here because we've never had a louder voice, a more significant voice because of the platform that we have by playing these games now. Like the chance to expound on what happened in Wisconsin or any other situation because we're playing these games and because we have this platform and because we do these interviews has probably never been better than it is currently. We've maybe not had as great an impact as we do now. And if we shut that down, well, look, it's correctly pointed out, there will be another incident. And everyone has to be judged singularly. You know, not every incident is equal to the other. There are moments like I don't want to get overly political right now on this show, but what I will say is we see incidents that are almost universally agreed upon as being unjust, as being murder or not, and then we see other incidents where we say, there's a gray area here. I got to know the circumstances. I don't know what happened. So not every incident, not every situation of police brutality or alleged police brutality is equal. So you don't know, right? You have to get more information. If you stop playing now, which is fine. Certainly, I think it sends a resounding message. You can agree with it, disagree with it. You can think it's a disastrous misstep, or you can call it a very powerful action. That's fine. That's what's open for debate. That's what's being discussed. But if you do that, are you not playing again? Because this won't be the last. There will be another incident and another incident. That's the tragedy of all this, right? It's going to continue. Not to say that change isn't happening or that the larger conversation about how to do a better job of policing, etc. Right? That's happening now during this movement. But it's not going to change Friday. It's not going to change on Sunday. It's not changing on Monday where everything plays out in a way that we're all in favor of. That's not how that's going to work.
Yeah, I agree. I largely agree with your point. And this is where programming matters, messaging matters if you're trying to get word out about something, right?
Right.
It's like anything else. Is what we do in our business behind the scenes, which is you want to come on as a sponsor of this program? Well, let's make sure that there is a term in advertising, the frequency of the message to make sure that it gets home. That
because we want to win for you. Yeah, we want it to work.
Somebody might not need a car repair right now, but when they do, they're going to remember you. And then you get a chance to show your wares as a professional business and live up to the branding that you say that you're going to live up to, right?
Correct.
Okay. So very clinically, let me look at something from 4 years ago in the election cycle. This is clinically, not politically, so stay with me. The idea of fake news. If I say the term fake news to you, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, what is the first thing you think of? And I would guess, if you put a poll out there, that it would be news media. Cable news media would be the thing that most people would answer.
For-profit media.
Right.
Yes.
Fake news. That's what they would think.
Yeah.
In fact, the term originated... It was describing Eastern European / Russian computer labs that may have had people representing themselves falsely on social media accounts. That is where the term originated. You cannot dispute this fact. But if you message over and over and over again,
it eventually
that fake
becomes
news,
yes.
Right? Exactly, and that's the power of messaging. Over and
propaganda
over
is
again.
a very real thing. Yes,
but even if it's not propaganda, if it's a message about
or hope,
yes, whatever it is,
right.
If you look at it clinically, saying something over and over and over again allows people to remember it and recall it. And that's where I agree with you that, you stop the games, you stop the feed of information, that the league is working with you hand in hand.
Yes.
And here's the frustration I have. A couple of things. The term boycott, we can get into that a little bit later, but the NBA has been aggressively pro-player when it comes to issues of social justice. Just take a look at other leagues. NFL, MLB, NHL.
It's an apology tour right now for the NFL for not having listened. And listen, there is, by the way, sorry, allow me to interject. There is certainly a contradiction here, and I crack up. You think back on how simple the protest was of taking a knee, and it wasn't acceptable.
No, well,
it wasn't acceptable, right?
Sitting wasn't acceptable, and then he talked to a U.S. military veteran who said
who
kneeling is much more respectful.
Much more respectful,
and I'll stand next to you for this particular demonstration.
My point isn't whether you agree with it or disagree with it. My point was that was the form of protest chosen, was to take a knee. But that was deemed by a large segment of the population to be completely unacceptable. Okay. So let's just take it from there and see where we're at.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that the NBA has been aggressively pro-player in
Correct.
If you've got something to say, we're going to elevate your voice. And in that sense, I understand that yesterday had to be an incredibly emotional day. You're in a place of anxiety to begin with because you're walled off from your family. So I do understand where you're coming from there.
Especially for members of the Milwaukee basketball team 40 miles from where the incident occurred.
And that specifically, they have a different issue than the rest of the bubble.
That is a very different situation than, say, the Clippers have.
But my point would be, if your league administration, if not the owners, but at least the NBA personnel that run the league day-to-day wise, those in charge of branding, public relations, community relations, the commissioner himself, if they have been at the forefront of helping you do what you want to do, so much so that you look at the court and you look at the uniforms within the bubble, do you not owe it to that institution at that point as a group of players or a team to reach out and say, can we work together on a message here? Can we take a couple of days off from action? And let's shine the light where we want the light to be shined together. I'll bet you Adam Silver would have been cool with it if they approached him in that way, rather than the idea where the Bucks are in a different situation. So they do what they do, and I get that. But then you have unilateral conversations going on, and if I'm the ownership group or I'm the commissioner, I'm saying, hey, guys, we've been with you every step of the way. You want to let us help you along these formative moments rather than – one hand doesn't know what the other is doing.
Yeah, now the league has, and we should at least update the actual news of the day. The league now has said that the teams the players have voted to play basketball. Not tonight, but starting.
It looks like tomorrow.
It looks like tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's what we're hearing. This is all a fluid situation. So we're hearing that it will start back up again tomorrow. So that should be noted, because I think people are probably still wondering, like, well, are they going to finish the season or not, or what's going to happen from this point forward? And that remains to be seen. There are still an awful lot to vet here, but as for right now, the players have voted after meetings late into the night and well into the morning to come back and play starting tomorrow. And I figured that would happen partly because of what you're describing, partly because it has been a very, very forward-thinking league and a very, very a symbiotic approach to both, whether you're talking about Adam Silver as commissioner, but also the owners and the players working together. That has been a league that really has been the model for that. But also because, Tom, and this is where it gets very fascinating, and I'm going to watch this play out, and we're going to read, and we're going to obviously take this all in and kind of in real time try to figure out what we think as it's happening. But I said business is business. There is a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility, and so I do wonder. It's on both sides too, and I'm not using that cop out both sides thing that we see in politics. I'm talking about the owners expect the players to play. They're paying them their salaries. You could have opted out of the bubble if you wanted to be involved in other causes, or you didn't feel comfortable being in said bubble, whatever that might be. But once you committed to play, and social unrest and the problem of dismantling systemic racism isn't going to be solved tomorrow. So we knew that the potential for other things to happen that you would want to lend your voice to, certainly I'm not asking you to not talk, would occur. How do we know that? We live in America. Of course it's going to happen, right? I get it. But you committed to play.
Right.
Not playing costs the league hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, that might be the impact that's intended.
Correct.
It is. That said, there's a collective bargaining agreement at which point you're in violation of, and then I don't think this will happen, but the NBA could say, okay, fine, we'll tear that up.
Yeah, no, I think, okay.
I think it's complicated, yeah.
Well, because you want to be careful. That's what broadcast media is, right? You got to be careful with your words. But I guess what I'd say is if the storyline was that the players appealed to the league and they said, we'd like to take some time, and the NBA said no, and then the players said, well, screw you, we're not playing, that's one thing.
Right.
It's another thing to happen the way it happened. And that's the frustration I have with it is the NBA has facilitated. If this is the NFL, I get it. I get where you're going.
Oh, certainly. You'd roll your eyes at
the
the
NBA has
NFL,
been a facilitator to these types of conversations. Use them. They welcome it. Clearly, they've got a multi-decade track record of welcoming this conversation. And at some point, I feel the same way as I did when, and this is, you talk about both sides, these are two different ends of the spectrum. One is very business and one is very look at me Hollywood style. Mm-hmm. Beginning of the pandemic. The video comes out, it blows up. Remember that video? Imagine. Everybody stay at home. It's I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can. Thank you, celebrity A, B, and C, for singing to me about no worldly possessions, even though you're living in a mansion and telling me to stay home. Okay, great. In the same way, I feel like it's tone deaf on the side of what's going on currently, which is, well, okay, so we're all supposed to stop working? Like, I got to make a living, man. That's what I'd say to the actors, and that's what I'd say to the players.
Mm-hmm.
I got to make a living. So I'm glad that you guys are doing this to facilitate a conversation, but I feel like this decision was born out of emotion, and it wasn't thought all the way through. I'm glad that people are emotional about it, though, because they should be. It's just, I think there was a way to navigate this conversation in a way that would have been collaborative with the NBA, because that's a league that facilitates these things.
I think it's happening now. And I think what will be fascinating is, again, to watch a league which has been, again, very, very, very unified. Seldom seen, by the way, in professional sports. The kind of unified, or the unification you see between players, owners, and commissioner in the NBA. Now, they've had bumps in the road like every other league, and we Sterling and all of that. We remember the things that have happened. I'm not saying there aren't bad apples in ownership in the NBA, but Mark Cuban's unique to is not unique to the NBA. There are a lot of interesting.
He's a unique cat. Yeah.
He's a unique cat who doesn't really exist in the NFL, is what I'm saying. It doesn't really exist in Major League Baseball. You see it in the NBA. I wondered what the response was going to be. I don't mean about the event that occurred. I meant from the owners, because I thought, we've reached a new place here. This is now going to affect the dollars, which again might be the intended action. That's fine. I wondered that a league that's been in lockstep, how would they respond when the money got affected to this degree?
Well, and I think it would be fair for the ownership group if they are along those Mark Cuban lines where they're saying, listen, you guys have a voice, speak your truth.
Yeah.
I'd understand if one of those owners said, hey, man.
Yeah, speak
the
your truth
hell?
while you're playing.
No, I just mean, the hell, communicate to me.
Yeah, talk to me.
Talk to me.
Well, it's complicated, too, because every time we go down a path and we start talking about one of the issues, I see how it relates to another, and I can see where you would choose a certain action that flies in the face of this other thing that we've talked about before because you think it's going to have a greater impact on the overall issue, right? But at the same time, micro stuff within the league and owners asking employees to play without sounding callous because we have been unified. The expectation is then that the reward for that is that you honor your contract. Because I'm a businessman too.
Right.
And it's hard to talk about things like money when we're talking about social change and justice and things like that.
But
it's
the
tough.
impetus for the change, the pressure point is the money. So
it
you have
always
to.
is. You have to. That's right.
And the other part of it is you're living in a world that we can't understand in a lot of different ways. If you're talking about an NBA basketball player who is of Black or African American, depending upon where their heritage comes from. They live in a different world in a couple of ways.
Yeah.
Number one, the obvious thing where they're more nervous when confronted by somebody in law enforcement than I could ever understand.
Right.
That's just true.
Sure.
That's just true. But also, in this particular instance, they have a wealth that I can't understand as well. And so, therefore, I understand that you're putting a couple of game checks or maybe a playoff revenue sharing thing on the line, but it's not like nobody's going hungry. You know,
Right.
I have a hard part with that. I have a hard time with that.
So what you're saying
And both
is
those things have become politicized.
Yeah.
That's just the truth of it.
Well, a lot of what we have these conversations about become politicized in a way that's uncomfortable. Where you're like, well, this isn't really about politics. Oh, yes, it is, because there's nothing that's not these days.
Right.
All right. Well, that happened, and we don't know when the games are going to be played, other than that it looks
like tomorrow.
Tomorrow is where that's at.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that 7-1 ass kicking?
I'd love to.
I'll spend some time with it.
That felt good.
It's Florida State's off day, by the way, from a football standpoint. So we can get into some Florida State stuff. There's not a ton to address. I will say this, as to the games themselves and whether it's the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NHL, 5 o'clock hour, Lee DeKemper, Joe Bucks fan, the website, of course, he is going to join us on the program because we do have to talk about Tom Brady, camp, and football starting in 2 weeks. I did not do my due diligence to start the show when we talked to Joe, Lee DeKemper as he's known. He will appear via the Phone Hero hotline. Phone Hero, specializing in iPhone and iPad repair. 2 locations, 2915 Cary Forest Parkway and 833 West Gain Street. Online at phoneherotlh.com. Yeah, it's not often that playoff hockey ends as ugly as it did last night between the Lightning and the Bees. Meaning ugly as in a thorough ass thrashing.
Yes, it was. Snowballed on Boston a little bit there.
Yeah, they had a disadvantaged goaltender going into the series. I think that was pronounced last night. They got a little unlucky a little bit last night, too. And I actually basically believe, I don't know if you agree, you do a podcast on this on the Joe Bolts Fan Network, but I would say to you that I think from the middle of the second period of Game 1 to where we are now, the Lightning have had the better of the play.
Yeah, that was the hunch after Game 1 where you pissed off about the way they played the first 20, 30 minutes.
But that they had figured some things out.
You're like, man, and this is what happened 2 years ago, is Boston tattooed Tampa in the first game. And then Tampa wins in 5. And you're thinking, well, maybe there's some symmetry there, some precedent. And then the way Tampa comes out in Game 2, you're thinking, wow, they have figured him out. Now, Tampa has some deficiencies. The defensive, they lost one of their top 4 guys on defense.
Yeah.
And that's 25, 27 minutes a game. So now they're shuffling. And if you lose a top 4 defenseman in hockey, that's like losing a starter in football on defense, like a linebacker or a safety or somebody. So they're trying to figure some stuff out there, and they have deficiencies. But they know what's coming. There is no surprise anymore. And they figured out how to play Boston within their structure. Last night what happened is the first 2 goals are off of fortunate bounces. One is off of a stick.
One's off a stick, but good things happen when you throw pucks at the net, man, and they hadn't done enough of that. By the way, going into last night's game, power play was non-existent. You get 3 goals on the power play last night.
Yeah, and the first one was one of those. It was a power play goal. And then the second goal was...
It's a pick.
I mean, a referee. It's a linesman.
It's a pick.
To be specific to hockey, but he knocks over.
I'm proud of that guy.
So the Lightning forward is going to get closed off. The angle is there. It would be like the umpire getting away of the linebacker and knocking the linebacker on his butt while a running back is running by. That's exactly what happened.
It does happen, though, and they are part of play. I mean, that is part of the problem. You see line judges doing their damnedest. By the way, I've often thought that is not the job for me, man. I mean, pucks go whizzing past their knees and their heads all the time. I like, woo.
Like, in truth, I think the flow of that game before Boston waved the white flag in the second period, it's maybe a 1 or 2 goal game in Tampa's favor. It's not that much, but it can snowball on you with special teams, and then if you get a couple of bounces to go your way. So, yeah, I would think if they play tomorrow, I know the games for tonight are canceled, but if they play tomorrow, Tampa-Boston has been a really, really good series.
And Colorado-Dallas has made you money, baby. Big Daddy J yet again with the winner chicken dinner. How much has that ATM paid every single time?
Hot damn. Big Daddy's done it again.
Woo! 6-4, a little 10-goal action. Number was 5.5 inexplicably again.
After a 10-goal output the previous game.
Yeah, that is, you walk up, cash it in, man. It's funny, I tuned in because we had to preview the event at Olympia Fields. PGA playoffs going on right now, and I had to attempt to make sure I do a good show with Trey Jones, and we ended up having, of course, the head of Olympia Fields Golf Course come on the program to talk about how it was set up and everything else. But so I was prepping for that.
That's a good get.
It's a real good get. But when we had him on to talk about the field this week and to talk about the way they say, I've been told, by the way, just as an aside, that there is not a better place for colleges to play. That you are treated like a king. You get to use a palatial clubhouse. It's insane the size of it. He told us last night. The number was staggering. I mean, I'm afraid to say it out loud because I'm going to get it wrong, but it was like 100,000 square feet.
Oh my!
It goes on for days. It's massive. And Bobby Jones won. I mean, it's an incredible place, right? And apparently it's a extremely difficult course. If you're on the wrong side of the hole on a lot of these, Trey explained it to me that if you miss your marks on certain holes, you're hoping to 2-putt from 7 feet. It's that hard. It's just good luck. If you make it, it's because you ran into the hole. It's very difficult to keep. Yeah. So he talked about what kind of players would play well there, et cetera. It has a feel of a major. And so we were going through all that. I couldn't check the hockey is my point. And so I was trying, we went to commercial break and I would look over and I saw we're up 3-1. Then I saw we're up 4-1. Then I saw we're up 5-1. I went back and caught up and watched it late last night and early this morning. But when I got home, I thought, okay, well, at least I'll get to watch this Colorado game and figure out whether or not I'm going to make my money. And I did. I sat down to watch.
Priorities.
Yeah, and early on, there's not a quick goal in that game. and it's 1-0 for a little bit too long. I'm like, what's going on here? But then you
Mhm.
get goal, followed by goal, followed by goal.
Literally.
Which is literally. That's
9
how
of the
happens.
10 came in 3 goal sequences.
It
yeah.
was insane. So I cracked up laughing. At 1-0, I was like, oh, I don't know. We may not get to cash the ticket tonight. And then boom. Good night,
So,
Irene.
I was so pissed. I've been telling everybody to watch this series, and I watched the first 2 periods, but I ran out of gas. I couldn't do it. It's 12:15, and I'm not usually staying up much past 10:30 anymore.
No, you're a grown-up.
And it's 12:15. I'm thinking one more period or no, and it was 3-1 Colorado. I said, nah, the hell with it. And so I rolled over. It was about 1:45. I was almost asleep, and a noise woke me up. So I was like, well, I'm up. Let me take a
I'll
look
check
at
the score, yeah.
4-3 Dallas. I go, oh my God, are you kidding me?
Just like that.
And I rolled over. I woke up this morning. I was like, I guess Dallas won 5-3. Then I look at the score, 6-4 Colorado. What the hell? This game's on crack. This series is on crack. It's really good TV. I can't emphasize that enough.
Well, and we're all looking for something to settle in and watch sports related, have a little fun for a couple of hours. And again, I don't think it's my job, nor is it yours necessarily, to try to recruit people to the NHL. But if you love high intensity, physicality, skill, intelligence, fearlessness, toughness, you won't find really a sport that can provide more of it more consistently on a nightly basis than what you get in the NHL playoffs.
If you want 4 parts skill and 1 part physicality, then
That's that
Colorado
series,
and Dallas is your series.
Mhm.
If you want equal parts physicality and skill, then Tampa-Boston is your series. The other 2, you might have to get lucky. They could be, boring games. But those 2 series, you got a TV too, put it on that. You will not be disappointed.
I mentioned a moment ago that today is FSU's off day, so for once we really don't as we get ratcheted up. I mean, again, let's repeat it, say it aloud to make people realize how close it really is. 2 weeks from today, the NFL starts. This Saturday, college football starts. I'm mesmerized by that. It does. Central Arkansas, our head coach's alma mater, that's who's playing. Austin Peay on the other side of things, and Austin Peay and Central Arkansas will never have a greater audience than what they'll have this Saturday. And I will count myself amongst those who are going to be locked in.
Will you please put in a call to Lee Sterling to see if he's got an angle on it?
I don't know that he's got an angle. I will put in a call, but I'm going to be a sporting guy for that event. I mean,
You have to,
I
right?
don't know how many I'm going to get.
What are you going to do, flip a coin and bet the money line?
Well, I'll do some reading. I'm not going to just go in there blind, but I'll do some reading. I'll educate myself. There are enough tools out there now for all of us who seek to be sporting guys or gals to figure this out. So
You want me to pull up and
I
see
have
if there's
not.
a line real
Are
quick?
you pulling up the first official line on the Jeff Cameron show? The
Am I
first,
allowed to do that? Is that sacrilege?
Go ahead. Pull up the first official
See if I can find
line.
it. NCAA
It
football.
is,
There we
after
go.
all, a Redemption Thursday edition of the program. How fitting it is that we would have this. In theory, I should have already mentioned it. We should have opened with
We would
Redemption
have,
Thursday wagers.
What, like 5 or 6 week 0 games?
Yeah, we would have already had it.
So there was none on my usual place. No line available. Here we go. CBS Sports.
Give me that line.
I'm looking at it. Okay, Central Arkansas is a 4.5 point favorite,
Mm-hmm.
and the over/under is 42.5. That's from William Hill as of today.
Got some research to do, everybody. Friend of the program, my friend Bud Elliott, I'm sure has already got a wager in on this. I'll text him tonight.
Oh, it's too late. I already got it. It's too late. They moved 2 points.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. You get in on it early. That's fine.
That's what he would say.
He can say that, but I'm going to say, all right, as it is now, where are we at? Let's
Hey,
do
a
this.
side's still going to win, pal.
Yeah,
That's what I
let's
say.
let's go. I'm going to look at this. How about that? Game Saturday, college football. All right, I'll get to the FSU talk momentarily. you're in need of emergency service for your plumbing or really anything that involves piping, air conditioning. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Faucets.
Gold standard live read.
Sewer replacement, clogged sewer lines, camera inspections, natural gas. They got you. Septic tanks, all the stuff. Water heaters. Give my friends at Keith McNeil Plumbing a call today, 850-562-5504. I had to call them. I had an emergency. Nothing so pressing as a sewer issue, but a hot water heater. I don't know about you, but taking cold showers is something to panic about.
Well, I can tell you that my family up north, they have septic tanks, and that is emergency service. Oh, boy.
I've got a septic tank.
You do?
Yeah. In the backyard.
Really?
Underneath the ground, yeah.
Oh, my.
They have to come and clean her out every couple of years.
Well, you
Lots of neighborhoods do.
routine maintenance.
Routine maintenance is the
Routine
key.
maintenance. I've never been in a house with a septic tank.
Oh, well, you have. You've been in mine, and you've also been
You
in
know what I mean.
Matt's and
Lived in
others
one.
all around. You will if you buy a house. That's
Yeah.
where they are. That's what's going to happen. That's the way it works, buddy. You can't see them, but, yeah. You just grab that shovel, ding, ding, ding. It's down under there.
My aunt and uncle have one at the beach community, and, every once in a while there's it's an issue. Somebody on the block. All it takes is one person to have an issue, and the whole block's in trouble. Get the vinegar under the nose.
Florida State, I will note this just to point it out. And by the way, this camp update is, again, why I brought up Keith McNeil Plumbing. We did talk about it on headlines yesterday, but Isaiah Bolden going to wide receiver, I'm excited about. I'm continually excited about how often I'm hearing players discuss how pumped they are to play football, and I'm beginning to believe that we're going to play football. That's not nothing, folks. If you've listened carefully to my comments on a daily basis here on the Jeff Cameron Show, then you know that I have been suspect that this is going to take place, and I still am a little bit. I'm apprehensive to go all in with my emotions and thinking that we're going to get to watch our beloved Noles play a college football game here in Tallahassee, Florida, against Georgia Tech in the not-so-distant future these days. But I think I'm about to allow myself to believe. I think we're going to get there, Tom. Now, knock on wood and do all the things you need to do to exorcise the demons and reach out to the football gods as not to feel the wrath. But I think we're going to get there.
I tend to agree that we're going to get started, and that's where I've been for a little while. I think it's going to start. I just don't know where it's going to go from there.
But you know what? That's where we end the conversation. It's all right. It's all right. We don't need to project what's going to happen in week 6. Let's just get to week 1 and get through week 1, and maybe there's a week 2, maybe. And then there's a week 3. Who knows? It happens. But you know what else happened today on that note? That's right. Game times, baby. Now, 9 p.m., as released by ESPN, is that Austin P. Central Arkansas game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 9 p.m. for that ass.
Yeah, they moved it from 8. They want to get that extra primetime window.
Oh, forget about it. You've got my man Matt Berry, who once texted me out of anger because I was making fun of him on the air as he got into the car from the Tallahassee airport to do College Game Day. What unfortunate timing for me. He tunes in the back of a cab, tells the guy to put on ESPN radio, and I'm ripping him.
Well, what's he going to do?
Nothing. Michael Jr. will be his partner for that particular broadcast. Central Arkansas at UAB is the Thursday, September the 3rd matchup.
That's right. Central Arkansas is playing 2
They're
games.
like, I'm playing within 48 hours. We're getting these games in, baby.
We're going to get 12 games in 12 consecutive days.
That's an 8 p.m. game. You're going to be tired of watching Central Arkansas.
We'll know a lot about him by the second half of the UAB game.
Yeah. Their right guard still sucks, just like last week. That's a problem. They're going to have to figure something out. So, September the 5th, Eastern Kentucky at Marshall. 1 p.m., baby. A little 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
All right.
Here we go.
We are indeed.
At 4:30, SMU and Texas State. Big matchup there. Somebody at home watching. So they're going to give us Arnest Shuroff doing the game? Really? Arnest Shuroff? That is who's doing the play-by-play.
Anish Sharaf, yes.
I don't know about this Anesh. Sounds fishy. Where are the Franks and Steves? Louisiana Monroe at Troy. That's at 7 o'clock. So a full slate, folks. Saturday, September the 5th. Little Eastern Kentucky Marshall, SMU, Texas State, Louisiana Monroe, Troy.
Hey, it's something.
That's the shirt. Hey, it's something. I'm with you. I like it.
TV2. It'll be TV2.
I should note this. The game between Troy and Louisiana Monroe on September the 5th has been postponed.
Oh, you bastard.
It'll be played on December the 5th instead at Troy. ULM has had a significant COVID outbreak. They've had to shut it down at Louisiana Monroe. Just so you know. Houston Baptist against North Texas, 7:30 ESPN3. Arkansas State again joins us on September. No,
that's Arkansas
that's
State.
Arkansas State.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's what is their mascot? That's where Chad Morris was.
Yeah. Bob Wischusen is going to be calling that with.
He's good.
Yeah, he's solid. Arkansas State at Memphis, and then finally Monday, September the 7th. Big time matchup in prime time, 8 p.m. A little BYU Navy action. It feels like real football.
That's closer.
It's close.
It's getting there.
Oh, hey, listen. No gift horse in the mouth here, buddy. I am looking. I'm watching. I am locked in on all of it. I'll watch every one of these damn games. I will gamble. I will put ungodly sums of money on matchups between teams I've never scouted or read a thing about because that's who I am.
So here's the thing. Watching some of the media veils, this is coming out of the scrimmage, and Fuller was asked a question, and he was kind of surprised by it. He was looking down, and then he reacted to it, and he raised his head, and he has this icy stare, and you're like, ooh, spooky.
What's going on?
Will he give us the icy stare against Georgia Tech, the first game of the season? I want to know. You got to learn the mannerisms of everybody.
Yeah. You want to bet on icy stairs?
Over under?
Hour number 2, fourth coverage. Stay with. number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Thanks for tuning to it. I'm Jeff. He's Tom. Matthew's in the back over there. He's directing. We're talking. Hey, the Pirates aren't losing. It's the 4th inning, and they're not losing.
Is it because you aren't playing?
No, we're playing. We haven't given up a run. Now, we have not scored a run, which is par for the course, but we have not given up a run. By the way, we're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free always. Don't miss anything. If you do miss something, go back. Get caught up at your leisure. You know what I can't get into right now? And again, we've had weightier subjects and conversations to have, and perhaps that is certainly keeping me from thinking about the frivolous, and the frivolous is the world of fantasy sports. But everybody's having their draft right now, and in the next couple of days, I have not thought 1 second about a fantasy football draft.
Yeah, I've got my draft orders set. I actually had it set yesterday, picking 11th out of 12.
You'd rather just be 12th.
Well, I couldn't. So the way we do it is 1 through 12 is the order, but then everybody can choose their spot. And so everybody took it. 12 was before me. I was 6th, so I took 11th. Yeah. I'd rather have 2 okay players in COVID times.
You just don't. Yeah.
I want 2 A- players rather than 1 A+ and a couple of B-.
If you missed portions of the show, go find it on Apple Podcasts. You can email the program. You want to weigh in on anything, feel free to do so. JCS at 979 ESPNradio.com. Typically, I'd have some camp updates for you. Not a lot to update for you right now, given the fact that today is the off day for Florida State. I will also note that our friends at Lisa's Paint and Body help provide those updates. Choose a body shop that is working and looking out for you, someone you can trust. Lisa's Paint and Body, located at 2820 Mahan Drive. I also, of course, would note that last hour we certainly tackled head-on a subject that is on the minds of many right now, and it permeates and dominates the world of sport, and that is players walking away from playing games last night in a reaction to the shooting in Wisconsin of an unarmed black man, and that became obviously hotly contested in terms of, is that the right thing to do to continue to shed that spotlight on whether it's systemic racism or police brutality? Is that the right case study or the right situation to further
right incident,
cause?
yes.
Is that the right incident? Of course, that is being debated today by some. There is the larger conversation about when do you do that? Is it effective? Certainly it affects the bottom line. Perhaps that's the intent, obviously. At the same time, is that the best way to go about it in a league in which the commissioner and its owners have largely been in lockstep with its players and have promoted the message and agreed with its workforce, if you will, its players, every step of the way in voicing their concerns and their opinions, and has allowed for it certainly every game that we've watched from the bubble. And the NBA players today voting that they will go back to play starting tomorrow. They won't play tonight. Don't know how many Major League Baseball games aren't going to be played tonight. There are some being played right now. And so, by the way, just a completely unrelated but just sports thing. Acuna's home run yesterday for the Braves. And good job, Bravo, sweeping the Yankees. I'll always root for you to do that. Screw the Yankees eternally. But that home run is 473 feet. Sweet Jesus.
Albies hit one as well off a Cole that went 467.
Well, he provides a lot of the power, and then if you've got bat speed, and you guess right, and he was sitting on a fastball on one of those, and it was swing out of your shoes time, and that's got to be the coolest feeling in the world. Just to not feel it in your hands and to see that thing soar off of that speed.
You hit a home run in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I never played college baseball, but yeah, I've hit a home run in my life, and it's a fun thing. But like 2.
Yeah, same. One of them was in a pickup game at a camp, but I'll count it.
A home run, yeah. Hit a lot of home runs in softball at Tom Brown Park, Tom. A lot of those. I got a ton of. I was regular Babe Ruth there for a time. But
did you guys have home run caps or rules?
Yeah, we had home run caps and stuff. But you always wanted to hit one of the early ones because you knew it was going to get capped out. So if you're like the rule was 4 or 2, you'd be like, ooh, don't hit this one out. Screw you. I'm hitting this one out. I'm getting credit for one of ours.
How slow was your trot around the bases?
Oh, I stood and admired it. I hit the light tower one time. I was like, It was probably the furthest I've ever been at baseball. I think that thing would have been out of Wrigley. But that was when I was a strong young buck, Tom, still in my 20s, lifting hard.
That feels like a bumper sticker that I'm glad I don't see much of.
Yeah, lifting hard. Yeah. So that was, those were good times. I just wanted to note that I can praise the Braves too, and you can hear the Braves right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio, Tallahassee Sports Monster, where we carry the Atlanta Braves.
We're branding.
Well, I mean, listen.
It's iconic.
Not only are we branding, we're also winning money for our listeners who, comrades, enjoy another Red Russian on us. It happened again last night.
Knock on wood. This has been a good run. Don't ever want to see it end, but knock on wood. We've had a good series of things here happen.
Yeah, several good things happening. I was wondering when this was going to happen. It was written about earlier today, actually last hour. I was thinking about something, Tom, when we were talking about owners and players and the bubble and voicing and providing a voice for these issues and the right way to go about it, and everybody's got an opinion on that. And I'm fascinated by a lot of what I read and see, and some good, some bad, obviously, and some of it can be overwhelming. But I started to think who would bridge the gap, who would do a good job of speaking on the behalf of the owners, but also is so well respected by players that maybe if future issues, whatever it may be, very well be, when they're discussing ways to again continue to further enhance the voice or shine the light, who could sit down and do that? And Michael Jordan came to mind. I mean, it's been a renaissance for Michael Jordan lately. I mean, that no doubt about it, that documentary did an awful lot to bring him back to the forefront as a centralized superstar figure that was pretty well universally beloved in the world of the NBA, and certainly current players still wearing the brand, still wearing the shoes, and recognize what it means to be anointed by Michael Jordan. But if you think about it, Jordan's a guy that is the owner of the Charlotte Hornets and the only black majority owner in the league. And he reached out to the NBA Players Association president, Chris Paul, and in advance of the owners' meeting to get a better understanding of what the players hope to achieve going forward. Okay, Mike, it's about damn time. Here we go. That you seem perfectly situated to be able to help lead this conversation.
Situated, yes, but experienced in this regard, no. That's where I was wondering where you were going.
No,
so that's
right.
interesting to me. That's an interesting development.
Well, lately he has had more of a voice and chosen to use it than he ever did as a player. That is for sure, and that has been one of the great criticisms of Michael Jordan for a very long time. What do you owe? What's incumbent upon you when you have the kind of power and influence that Michael Jordan has had in that league, predominantly made up of African Americans? And he never chose to take on that responsibility. He hated being labeled as a sellout and not willing to speak up. And you could sense his frustration in that documentary when he was asked about it. His quote was, "I have Republican friends too," and he didn't appreciate being asked about it. But ever since this has occurred, meaning the latest spotlight being shown on systemic racism and police brutality towards African Americans, Michael has been more vocal, and I've waited to see it. I'm just very, very interested to see if that role, if he continues to allow for that and to grow in that role. Because I always thought Mike had opinions on that. He just didn't share them. I always thought Mike was insightful enough. I think Mike is an interesting guy that knows the league's history. And I thought he had something to say, and I hated that he wouldn't say it. So I'm curious to see if he moves forward with it.
Maybe he does. I don't know. I think there is a lot of Michael Jordan in terms of just the window that he allows us to see, because that's what that documentary was, the window that we were allowed to see, not the window as it is. But there's a lot about Michael that speaks to, hey, man, I earned everything I got. Nothing was handed to me. I took it. And that type of attitude can work in a lot of different ways in a situation like this. So how he chooses to channel that idea, we'll see. Or, maybe he makes a phone call and this is the last you hear about Michael Jordan involved in the conversation. I don't know.
Well, the owners, as you correctly pointed out last hour, and as we've said, what makes this an interesting case, have been very, very out front, I think, and have been amenable without question. In fact, even have been proactive in urging players to express their frustrations and their truth. The owners of that league have, unlike the NFL. I mean, they very much, there are, I shouldn't say all the NFL owners haven't, some have, but very few, right? Roger Goodell tripped all over himself during this, whereas the NBA hasn't been that way. The NBA has been very fair-minded and forward-thinking and progressive in that way. And so, Michael Jordan is a majority owner, and, if you read into what he's doing here, he's just furthering that idea, right? Telling owners, let players express themselves. And I don't think that has been a problem for the owners.
That's immediately when you say that, my first reaction is, yeah, they're like, okay, go ahead. Just clue us in on, when you want to sit out. Like, just let us in on the conversation a little bit.
He's got credibility with the players and the owners is the thing. And he's been a poor owner, so they love him in the league. Yeah, keep kicking your ass, Mike. Great. But by the way, the owners were unanimous in their support of the players. And in that meeting that took place, which is the one that resulted in players choosing to come back to play, not tonight, but tomorrow, it is said by numerous sources, according to ESPN, this is the newsworthy items of the day here. This is not an opinion. This is the stuff that came out of these important meetings and discussions. The owners were unanimous in saying that they support the players. Much of that meeting was spent devising ways in which they could help amplify the players' voices, but yes, also play the basketball games. I knew this was going to be the case, that at some point the owners are going to say, listen, we'll do everything in our power, and that includes use our money for these causes to help further and make progress, the change that you're seeking, that we're all seeking. I got it. Let us do that, but I'm going to need you to go to work. That's going to be that's how that discussion is going to happen. Now, they can say no. The players can say no, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Well, they're going to play tomorrow, so that's at least the first part of it. This is where the owners would say, and this is to use something that got really out of hand last year, but speak up and dribble. Tell your story, but play.
Yeah, but it's not it's not being said in that same dismissive manner.
No.
And not even close, right? I hesitate to put...
No, it's garbage. And you juxtapose that with certain coverage of a quarterback in New Orleans, and you know all you need to know about that person.
Right.
But the point is that, the owners are saying, hey, man,
Well, they're saying, hey, man, we're here to help.
The NBA cares, but you know what the NBA is?
It's a business, and we're here to make money,
Jesus.
and we're paying you. Yes, that's how that's going to go. That conversation, I wondered how they were going to do that, because at the end of the day, I thought the owners, who've made it abundantly clear that they support their players, without question. It's awesome to see how much they support their players. Look at the bubble. It's one giant message. It's branding. It's messaging. It's getting the word out. It's doing all those things. It's shining a light. And the owners have been in lockstep with that. But I figured at some point they would say, now, we do this to make some money. Like, that's the bottom line. I'm paying you several $1 million,
right,
and I am making money off the television revenue that comes from us watching you play.
Right.
We're going to need to play.
Like, they have a Zoom call, and the owners then...
That's got to be the most awkward moment.
They're like, can I screen share something to you? And it's just like the court. Like, it's quite a canvas, isn't it?
I would love to hear the stutter effing that goes on where the owner is really, really supportive, but at some point wants to just send a message about the playing part of all this. So it's like, I hear you, Steve. That's ridiculous. No, you're absolutely right. Say it louder. Absolutely. You should put that on the shirt tomorrow when we play. Well, I don't know if we're going to play. Right, but we got to get that message out there. How better to do it than when we're playing?
How about the shoot-around? We can put stuff on the sleeves.
I've got a robe. We can all wear robes and, during shoot-around before the game tomorrow at noon.
We all know that pause, too. That's a pause on every corporate call, every business call you have ever been on, where it's like, how's the family? Doing well. Oh, that's great to hear.
That's good.
Now
listen, it's the most embarrassing. You're like, It's ridiculous. I can't believe we're at this place at this time. Steve, I'm with you, brother. If you ever need me, you call any hour. I'm always here for you, including right after games. Like the one we're going to play tomorrow at noon. I mean, I know this stuff doesn't go away just because you're playing basketball, so feel free to call me after tomorrow's game.
I completely understand where you're coming from. A quick note about my schedule today. I'm on a call with the executives from TNT.
Yeah.
And if you've got an idea of what I should be telling them, I'm telling them we're playing it. Am I not? Is that right?
I was thinking about your message, Steve. I was thinking about how much it resonates with me and my family and really throughout the NBA, throughout the owners' boxes, all around this great country of ours. One that could be greater, if only that message could be more, well, consistently amplified. The way it is on those courts when you're making baskets, like tomorrow at noon. What a message that's going to be. It'd be great if we won the game, but I know there are more important things. I'll see you at noon at shoot-around, Steve. You keep doing what you're doing. Like, just the cringiness of all of that.
We'll all work together as long as you're working.
Yep. The operative word there, Steve, is we'll all work together. I'm at work right now, Steve. What are you doing? Taking a look at who's doing what from an attendance standpoint for aforementioned football games last hour. I didn't know that we had a list now, Tom, of who's doing what at this point. In the ACC, for example, no fans at the first game. The rest of the season is to be determined. So some universities are saying, we're not real sure. Nothing for this first one. BC, it was an easy guess. They're not in favor of tailgating even when things are going extremely well.
They're not in favor of being the ACC. Kick their ass out.
Clemson hasn't announced, but we know what they're intending to do. We'll see if they make an official announcement anytime soon. Season will begin with no fans at Duke. Florida State, of course, much to Tom's chagrin, announced that they would have somewhere in the neighborhood of 19,000 people allowed to tailgate.
Wait, who?
You weren't happy about this.
No, you say Wake? Oh, us. I'm sorry.
Us,
I thought you
Florida
said,
State. No.
I thought when you said unhappy. See, I was looking at something.
No, you wouldn't give a damn about Wake Forest and what they're doing. I'm talking about us.
That's like 6 times their enrollment.
No, that would be impossible, right? Canes are going to allow 13,000 fans. That's audacious. You don't get 13,000 in the best of times. Louisville, limited to approximately 30% of the stadium. That would be around 18,000 with tailgating allowed. You always knew Louisville would. I'm surprised that's not at 100% with pizza for all. Georgia Tech is allowing 11,000. That's surprising.
My main issue with the Florida State thing was just don't send the e-blast. You know, it's like, hey, let's have a press availability about it.
Baylor's all in, 11,285. I say all in at 25%. Iowa State, who's going broke and announces it to the world on a regular basis, says that they're considering 3 options. No tailgating will be allowed.
No sports ever again.
No, they do it all the time. It seems like every week Iowa State's come out with another announcement. We're broker than we realized. This is not good. Kansas State are limited to 25%, 12,500. Oklahoma, wow, 21,528. If you've not been to a game in Norman, been in attendance to see the Mighty Sooners, you should go. It's a lot of fun. It is. You'd like it.
Be a little bit more expensive if only 21,000 are allowed in.
Yeah. Oklahoma State fans will be allowed. Attendance plan was not announced. If Gundy has anything to say about it, it will be maskless at full capacity. TCU, attendance limited to 25% of the stadium, 12,000. Texas going with 24,000. Tejas, bold. West Virginia are thinking about eating possum.
Mountain Mama.
In the SEC, Alabama's looking at 20,000. Arkansas, 17,000, including a drunk professor who wants to be convinced that Arkansas is serious about winning football games. Auburn at 17,000. Florida hasn't made an announcement yet. Georgia's looking at 23,000. No announcement yet for the one that I cared about most, and that would be LSU. I don't know what those Cajuns are going to do if they're not allowed to attend football games.
Well, they're dealing with the aftermath of a hurricane.
And my thoughts are absolutely with them. The great state of Louisiana, I feel for you. I actually adore the diversity of Louisiana, the interesting cuisine, music, people. Louisiana's a cool state. Oh, listen, every state's got a sordid history, but I'm saying on the whole, Louisiana's got a lot of good things to offer.
A mutual friend of ours said Baton Rouge sucks.
Who's that person?
Oh, I'll tell you after the segment. Said that it's all the things of New Orleans except worse.
No. First of all,
meaning New Orleans is good, but like, okay, sorry.
What?
It's everything that New Orleans does that's cool is not in Baton Rouge, and so therefore it sucks.
Oh, Baton Rouge is a lovely place.
I agree.
There are terrible places in every city in America, meaning that there are. I'm not even talking about like crime or anything. I'm just saying like there are spots that are aesthetically displeasing. You're like, I don't know about this. This is a big strip mall. I don't like this. Like St. Pete's got a bunch of strip malls. Tampa has a bunch of strip malls. Now, if you get outside of those strip malls, you turn around, you're at the beach. You're like, well, this is lovely. Or downtown St. Pete has become a great center for art and cuisine. So there are a lot of things now that are great about it. So like I say, every city's got something that you go, I don't know about this. But Baton Rouge is the same way, man. Down by the river, that is awesome. The restaurants there were fantastic. There's a charm to that city and to the campus itself. Oh, come on.
It was blasphemy. I didn't know. I'll tell you who it is.
I think I know. It's an embittered bastard. Goodness gracious. Mississippi State, who cares? Missouri, 15,655. Also, who cares? South Carolina. You can't keep those folks away, man. They love to watch those
42,000.
23,000.
Oh, well, okay.
Bold by these standards. Texas A&M's going with 25,000. Looking at you, Jimbo. Got to win more than 7 games. Tennessee, 25,614. Vanderbilt doesn't know what it's doing. That is often true on the field as well. So that's where we're at. If you want to look at the group of 5, you can, let's see, who's got the best? Who's doing the most?
Is it Reveille? Is that the name of the dog for A&M?
Isn't it Reverie?
Revelry, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they'd have a call-in show with that dog, and they ask the dog their thoughts. And the dog wouldn't say anything, but they'd say, you see, Jimbo needs to go.
Well,
Reveille has spoken.
Well, it is Reveille, and it's the first lady of Aggieland.
Yeah.
She is the official mascot.
It was very important to them how Reveille liked Jimbo the first time that they met.
She made her appearance for the first time ever, January 1931, and has been a fixture ever since.
Same dog.
It's an amazing story. Meanwhile, LSU has Mike the Tiger. You've got Smokey at Tennessee. You got Bevo at Texas, who's a big SOB who almost killed the Bulldog from Georgia.
It was baby Bevo when I saw it. It was a brand new one.
He's a monster.
Yeah. But now, not so much.
You got Ramsey's there at North Carolina with the Rams.
Ramsey.
Yeah. Ralphie the Buffalo, who disappointed me when I
You
met
just
her.
missed one letter. Call him Ramses. It's all. How much cooler is
He is
Ramses?
no,
than
he is Ramses.
Oh, you said Ramsey.
No, I said Ramses. I just didn't enunciate
Okay.
properly. No, it's Ramses. Ralphie the Buffalo disappointed me. I just want you to know that in Colorado.
Bevo would take down Ralphie.
Yeah. But Ralphie's faster, so Bevo wouldn't be able to catch him. He'd just be frustrated.
Meanwhile, Ugg is hiding in Ugg's house.
Let's give away things. Let's give away stuff from our friends at Tallahassee Harley-Davidson. They want to hook you up. They got stuff laying around. They say, here you go. Here's a prize pack, everybody, and come meet us. Come find out what we're all about. Come look at these beautiful bikes. Customized Tallahassee Harley-Davidson baseball cap, sweet. Keychain, decal, shirt. Hey, now. Stop by and meet the new owners of Tallahassee Harley-Davidson. Browse the latest and greatest bike models. Huge selection, by the way, going on right now. And they're open 7 days a week. There's always something going on at TallahasseeHarley.com. Check out that website for the upcoming events and call us now to win the prize pack. 523-3776. Caller 3, 523-3776. Go! you get a chance to rewatch the golf tonight, I know, but Olympia Fields is an amazing location. Jim Furyk won the U.S. Open here. It's an amazing course. There have been world-class events here on numerous occasions.
That was a feel-good moment. Jim Furyk was a wet blanket on the PGA Tour, and watching. You want to see the best win, and Jim was always like B-plus flight. But I openly rooted for him. I think a lot of people did. When he was coming down the stretch, you're like, come on, Jim. One time.
Get it, one time.
One time, Jimmy.
One time, Jim. Well, and he did. And you know what? How fitting is it that Jim Furyk has one major? You don't need multiple majors for Jim Furyk.
No.
I've always thought, for example, Tiger's boy in Orlando.
O'Meara?
Yeah.
He's got 2.
He has no business having 2 majors. No business. You're not good enough, Mark.
He told you to suck it on 72 at Augusta.
You should have never won 2 majors. You're not that caliber of player.
They're talking to Jack. He's like, me and Jackie, and he made the putt.
I mean,
that's a putt.
Yeah, and good for you. I'm not taking anything away from you, but Mark O'Meara ought not have 2 majors. He's in that category. You know we do this with guys. You're like, wait a minute, so-and-so has 3 majors. He's not even any good. Why? And I know that's counterintuitive. You got to be good, but, there are guys that have majors where we go, Jesus.
Todd Hamilton?
Plenty of guys like Todd freaking Hamilton. I'd say Immelman. Really? Won the Masters, did you?
I'll make sure to play nicely for the corporate types.
I mean, you can't play.
Brother, what do you think? I don't know, brother. What do you think? Back to 15 with my brother. Okay, brother.
They're everywhere. You've gotten tired of them.
I'm tired. Immelman's everywhere.
Yeah, they are. But
give me Peter Costas and Gary McCord.
Trevor wins one, and you're like, why did Trevor Immelman win the match? Mike Weir should have never won the Masters. What are we talking about?
He was the first lefty
before
Mickelson.
Mike freaking Weir. You'd beat Mike Weir tomorrow at Killarn.
Danny Willett.
You beat Danny Willett tomorrow at Killarn. I'm saying you can't have.
I do know the track.
I'm just saying you can't have guys like that out here rolling into majors. I'm like, okay.
McKeel.
Sean McKeel. Brad May, if he had won.
Oh no, Bob May would have taken it.
I said Brett. Yeah, but F Bob May. He never played before or after that way.
Not as a pro, but as an amateur, he was number 1 in the world.
He was a wonderful amateur. There have been a lot of wonderful amateurs. He didn't do a damn thing as a pro. And then that magical little run, I'm like, what are you doing trying to steal?
Okay, how about Y.E. Yang?
Get out of here, Y.E.
Oh, he took it.
He did take it.
He stared the Tiger down and he said, screw you, punk.
No. First of all, that's like your frustrations coming out. What I'm saying about Y.E. Yang is, now if you go do that, which he did, unquestionably, he did take it. I mean, that 3-wood over the palm tree or whatever it was.
Picking up his golf bag and shaking it.
No, it's an insane shot. Even Tiger's like, really? But, I mean, yeah, I got it. So that happened.
That's right. Really, you punk ass.
He did it.
I'm Y.E. Yang.
Yeah, and guess what I'm going to do from here? Lose my card because I can't play.
But you know what card I have? I got the card that I beat Tiger's ass.
I caught lightning in a bottle and hit shots I'd never before or since hit again.
I stared down the Tiger.
You did. And
I had the eye of the Tiger.
Freaking lucky for 4 days.
Skill.
It's like, that's what I mean.
Can't fake 4 days.
If Tyler Duncan or Harry Higgs wins this thing, I'm going to be like, good job, Harry.
Wins what? This tournament? It's a playoff. Who cares?
I'm just telling you. Oh, yeah, this tournament. You're right. Yeah. I won't hold out. But look, if they go on to win the whole
U.S. Open.
Yeah. Well,
the FedEx Cup's been won by a bunch of slappies. Billy Horschel's won the FedEx Cup.
Yeah. No, it has.
Brandt Snedeker's won the FedEx Cup.
You know who we always forget about that won the FedEx Cup? Who's the bald guy that he may have lost his card now, but he hit out of the water and mud. What's that guy's name?
How long ago is this?
7 years ago, 8 years ago. Bald, he also take his
Stewart Cink?
No.
He's a major champion.
He is.
Because of Tom Watson.
Well, he got screwed. Tom Watson got screwed. That's unfair, too. That's nonsense. Oh, Cink is a little bit better player, though. I mean, than some of these guys. Better than Y.E. Yang.
Yeah, or McKeel. Yeah.
Sean McKeel. That is ridiculous.
Hey, he knocked one to like 6 inches.
I don't care. It's ridiculous. And thankfully, Bob May didn't get his damn major either.
David Toms has 2, I think,
He's
right?
got 2.
Yeah.
Yes, he's got 2. Yeah, David Tom's got 2.
Yeah.
He was a putt and Jesse for a while there, though.
He also had a hole-in-one in one of them.
Yeah, he made some putts. He could make some putts. Who was the South African that he beat that missed a 3-footer?
Retief Goosen?
That's him.
Well, Goosen was a badass, though. He's got 3?
No, he didn't have 3 majors, no. He should have. You're thinking of the one he should have had, but he missed a putt from 3 feet. That's what you're thinking of. But no,
So was he a two-time U.S. Open champion?
Maybe. He might have just the one. David Toms has 2.
Hang on. Sorry. Checking.
Who are the guys that you most raise an eyebrow at when they win it?
Two-time U.S. Open champion
Okay,
for Goosen.
2
And he finished second twice at the Masters.
No, he's a good player. Good player. He got struck by lightning. The guy's a warrior. He almost died.
What?
He got struck by lightning as an amateur. His whole leg was fried. He got singed on the course.
I'd love to see a death match between him, in theory.
Yeah.
Celebrity death match.
Yeah.
And Angel Cabrera.
Oh,
One's
yeah.
a street fighter, the other was
Oh.
struck by lightning.
Yeah, Angel
You talk
Guerrero
about
come in
will.
there and shiv you, man.
Yeah,
My man comes out
guys.
with a knife in hand, ready to go.
You think a buried life bothers me?
No, Retief Goosen, go look it up. That story is insane. He got struck, and it's like his whole right side was black. He just was like singed, nearly died.
Like Mr. Deed's foot.
Yeah, he was. That's right. Yes, and then you bring up El Gato, who
El Pato.
El Pato. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was
Yeah, he's
the
the duck, not
yeah,
the
he's the
cat.
duck, not the cat. That's right. Yeah, he he's on the streets fighting for his life, shivving people as he's going to get his bread.
Adam Scott, you do not
No.
faze me.
My favorite part about him is in an era where rightfully we have taught people that smoking is terrible for you, that you ought not do it, and that it's probably not a good look if you're in a position of influence. My man is coming down the stretch at the Masters. Light him, smoke him if you got him, baby. Every 2 seconds, just
Yep.
yeah.
F you, pay me.
Didn't
That's
care.
what he says.
Didn't care. Just kept on smoking in the damn winner's circle. He's
Meanwhile, the membership at Augusta's like, so Angel won, didn't he?
Angel Cabrera just
We are
won.
very proud
Uh,
of Angel Cabrera.
Cabrera. Yeah.
What an effort, sir.
Yeah. They must. Can you imagine that group?
Way to beat Trip Turner,
And
who's a great young man.
Yeah. I expect great things from Trip Turner in the future as a human being. Of
Bright
course, I meant your
future.
future. Yeah. Yeah. Better than your future. I didn't say that. USF announcing they're going to take on Notre Dame. All right, then. They're going to go to South Bend on September the 19th. They waited some days to get the news out there. You get that game. The program's announcing today that they'll do that. Both teams had holes. Continue to work on filling out the schedule. That's a big one.
This is where Jacksonville State came from for Florida State, because if you notice the date of that game, the 19th, USF was a candidate to play FSU, and it was leaked out a couple weeks ago that USF and Notre Dame were going to make it happen. But good for USF, and is Michael Kelly still down there as the athletic director? Because they got a 3-game series, one of which puts Notre Dame in Tampa. That's a good get for USF.
Well, it's a huge get. I wondered, this is part of a bigger conversation. I don't like to lend credibility to USF where they haven't warranted, especially since they got cocky once they had a measure of it in any way, shape, or form. But I have thought about, in these games where we're adding automatic wins, you really should consider USF. They're not a real good program. They're not really a threat. I would just continue to pound their ass for the next several years and fill holes on our schedule with them because they're not any good.
You don't mean the Big Four USF program?
Yeah, they don't exist.
You talking about a different USF?
UCF surpassed USF a long time ago and run circles around the program. I would look at USF the same way that I look at Jacksonville State or Samford or somebody like that and say, okay, well, we'll play USF.
Not quite as bad as Jacksonville State, are they?
Well, maybe slightly better, but not appreciably so. So I would look at them and I'd say, oh, it's a chance to get to Tampa. Hey, listen, guys, feel lucky. We'll play you 3 times. You'll play 2 here in Tallahassee. We'll return 1 of those to Tampa, and we'll go get our alumni there, and we'll have big parties, and we'll go in there and beat your ass, and it'll be a lot of fun for all involved, and we'll go to some nice restaurants, and then you can come to Tallahassee 2 times and make a little bit of money for a struggling program. You're able to see a real football program come into town. You're able to.
It has been 11 years, and I have yet to truly forgive that football program under Bobby for losing that game to that team. That was
especially
ridiculous.
As it happened, and we
ridiculous.
And what we found out about it afterwards, you had infighting in the locker room, and between the coaches,
right?
If you recall,
legendary coach, right? Yeah, stick around long enough, and you see the kind of crap you saw when Jimbo was leaving, and the kind of stuff that always happened under Willie. It's all the same. It's all the same.
Yeah, man. I have thought they were a sleeping giant on a serious note for a long, long time. USF, that is, because of where they're located. There is a medical school. There's a lot of things to
be erected in downtown Tampa, which is also going through its own renaissance of sorts.
Yeah, there's just a lot to offer. But if you doubt me, folks at home, and say, well, you're overstating it, USF, first of all, is in the American Conference, the American Athletic Conference. That's not even like a real football conference. That's the conference they're in. They just finished up a 4-8 campaign. They won 2 games in that vaunted conference. 2. They previous season won 3 in that conference. Had 7 wins overall. The year before that, they did have a fine campaign. Willie Taggart did have the 11-2 season and win 7 games in that conference. But prior to that, they were 8-5. Before that, they were 4-8. Before that, they were 2-10. Before that, they were 3-9. Before that, they were 5-7. We can go back a ways now. Yeah. They really have been irrelevant.
Yeah, they just need the alumni to get rich and start to get old and want to spend money on the program.
Hasn't it happened by now? I mean,
no, they don't have enough quality alumni in terms of being able to command a lot of dollars. But once they get that,
people.
Well, I'm not going there. Yeah. But once that medical school, it starts producing some guys and they get some people away from Gainesville because, it's easier to live in Tampa than it is in freaking Gainesville. Yeah, I would think they're going to generate some money, but you're talking about a 20 to 30-year project going on there. They don't even have a stadium. No plans for one.
I didn't even really realize. I don't know how time just goes by so fast. There's no doubt. But, Jim Leavitt was there from 1997 through 2009. That was a long time that he was there before he threw that kid up against the locker and choked him, thus getting fired.
I remember their first game. It was against, I It was a D2 military. It might have been.
1AA Independent.
Yeah, well, it was
USF.
1AA at the time.
1AA at the time.
But they were playing it. I mean, it was like 70-0. I went to that game.
Yeah,
in
they
the old
ended up.
Houlihan Stadium.
Was it an NAIA team that they beat up on?
It might
have been.
But then they were the class of 1AA. Like immediately, it was them and Georgia Southern.
Well, they
going
went
toe-to-toe.
5-6 their first year. It was the second year where they went 8-3, and then they became a little bit more vaunted. They made the jump to single A independent. 01-02, and that was when they went 8-3, and then had a 9-win season, and everybody thought for sure Levitt had him rolling, including, by the way, when they went into Conference USA. You think about, and I'll get off of USF because this isn't USF.
Get
radio
off
here.
USF.
But you think about it, they were Double A, Single A, Conference USA, Big East, and the American. They have been all over the world. They have been in a lot of places.
They're trying.
They're
really trying.
really, but they have taken huge steps back now. Their first
Wikipedia page doesn't even have their first game. It tells you how their fan base is engaged.
7-4, 4-7. Their first 2 years in Big Boy Football Conference USA. Took a while. Then they ended up going to the Meineke Car Care Bowl in 2005. Remember, this is a program under Levitt starting in '97. Now we're in 05. They go to a bowl game. Not bad. That's
pretty quick.
Pretty quick. They lose that bowl game, the famed Meineke Car Care Bowl. And then they go on to go 9 wins, 8 wins, 8 wins. They're doing some things there. But then it falls off a cliff as Skip Holtz rolls into town, everybody. Old Skip parlaying that East Carolina gig into something. And then the next thing you know, we got 5-7, 3-9, and a whole lot of sucking.
That's true. At least, the least Skip could have done was put USF on probation, like his dad did everywhere he went.
Yeah, well, his dad is going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs these days. Listening to that poor guy.
It was Kentucky Wesleyan that they beat 80-3 in that first game. I was at 49,212 in attendance at Houlihan. I was there.
You were there for the big moment.
And then they played the Citadel next week. That's what happened. They lost 10-7. But people said, "Whoa, already with the Citadel. Way to go, USF, putting it together."
Against the mighty Citadel. Dropping 10 points. They scored 10 or
They
7?
scored 7.
They
in a
lost
losing effort.
7.
But, hey, what a good defensive performance.
Big moment. Anyhow, they'll be playing Notre Dame. That's where it all started before I just decided to beat up USF because, well, they've asked for it for a long time.
But we wouldn't have been as okay with scheduling them with the previous regime, right?
No. Now
This
I have
is
no,
a very
yeah.
Norvell bullish, no pun intended, scheduling game you're playing.
Yeah, because, by the way, I like Jeff Scott, the hire they made.
It's a good hire.
I think it's a good hire. We'll see.
It's about as good as they could do.
He's got a lot to do. I mean, they got a long way to go. That was a 4-win team under Charlie Strong last year. Whopping 2 wins in the American Conference.
When you think about it, that Willie
Yeah.
and Charlie Strong were the 2 primary candidates to take over after Jimbo, I think we'd still arrive here. Either way, we still would have been here.
The Charlie Strong story is an amazing one because by all accounts, and I've talked to college coaches, they think he can coach. Like that he's a smart guy, hard worker, he's all the things you want, he's upstanding, he's all of those things. He has been a miserable failure at Texas. He was a miserable failure at USF. Well, I shouldn't say that. He did have a 10-win season on the heels of Willie's 11-win season, but then he turned around and went 7-6 and 4-8 and peace.
We'd still be here. Mike Norvell.
Yeah, I think we would arrive.
Alternate universe.
Yeah, crazy to think about. Final hour forthcoming. Stay with. Final hour of the Jeff Cameron Show, at least for today. Appreciate you joining to it. I'm Jeff. That is Tom. We are online, ESPNTallahassee.com. You can go there to listen live via the streaming. You can go back and find the show if you missed portions of it there. Once it concludes, we post all 3 hours, not only to our own website, but obviously Apple Podcasts have it as well. So we appreciate you going back and listening when you get a chance. Your time is valuable, and it is taken on a regular basis. I get it. So when you get that moment to decompress and tune in and listen to us as your form of entertainment or information, we certainly appreciate it. Hello, YouTubers. Hope you're well. But also thanks for the ratings and passing it around for those that get the opportunity then because they hear from it or hear about it from you, I should say. This is going to be a short open for a couple of reasons. I don't feel compelled to begin the hour the way that any of the hours, the way that I normally do. We've got weighty stuff going on right now, and it involves very serious conversation, not frivolous sort of just off the cuff remarks. So I've obviously taken that seriously, and we've had these discussions. I also know that is what's happening all around you. It's what you've taken the time to do as well, and so therefore you don't necessarily need me to chide you and talk down or to give you what I think you should be thinking about. But I certainly can't not acknowledge what we're seeing here and what we're seeing in terms of the demand for change and starting something for this generation and the next generation to act upon. The voice given through sport right now is really remarkable to take in, to watch this play out in real time. And I've talked about it a lot today. I think it's a hell of an opportunity. It's a very powerful platform that athletes have right now, and figuring out the way to reach the most amount of people to exact change and to influence change is a tricky, dicey deal. It's a messy, complicated, necessary conversation that we're having right now. And for a lot of reasons that I think we all acknowledge, no matter where you stand on this is a messy, again, necessary conversation to be having. And we all sit back and take this in and watch and think, well, I agree with that or not that. And just remember this, that's okay. That's a lot about what having the larger conversation is about to me, is kind of vetting these things and listening to people who have differing points of view than you and not just living in that echo chamber that we're all guilty of from time to time. Because, listen, whatever you like or whatever website you frequently visit, that algorithm, that's got you pegged, baby. And they're going to send you more of exactly what you want to hear, and they know that. But the challenge here is to step outside that box, be it the world of sports or entertainment, politics, you name it, whatever it is, and to listen to those differing points of view to perhaps probably further expand what you know about any subject for that matter. So that's happening. It's happening right now, and it's affecting the world of sport, to be sure. And I know that it's okay to say, for example, as I have before, that, hey, I can openly admit and acknowledge the historic built-in systemic racism and police brutality towards African Americans specifically, and also acknowledge that there are times police officers are forced to use deadly force in the course of the job, and then there is a whole bunch of stuff that falls in between and outside those lines, and we've got to go case by case to watch that, look at that, and talk about that and what it means, and where to go from there. And it's going to be fascinating to see the collective voice that we're talking about now, whether it's the NBA or Major League Baseball or the NHL or the NFL, to see as this begins to form and continues to form, because they've done a great job really throughout the leagues of shedding a light and providing a voice for the unheard. And that is great. I don't know really who would want to argue with that. But there's more to be done in the way of action. And what's the right way to do that? I think that's up for debate. That really is the debate. I thought that, and frankly, I'll go through and look at this. I mean, there are a number of athletes who had, and we probably don't have time because I got to get to Lee DeKemper and talk some football. I mean, this is the first chance we get to check in with him. Football season's 2 weeks away in the NFL, and there are actual games to talk about. There are actual practices taking place right now, and that season is going to start, we think, in the next 2 weeks. So I do want to pivot there and have that conversation with Lee DeKemper. But I think that you can find really thoughtful, insightful, emotional, and very, very smart commentary. And all Draymond Green was fantastic when asked about what the NBA players are doing. And I quoted it earlier, but I thought it was interesting because he talked a lot about how, well, in my opinion, and he acknowledged that there are players on his own team and players in the bubble and players on other teams that disagree with him vehemently, which is fine. But he basically said, and I'm paraphrasing, in my opinion, we have this platform because people are tuning into the games, and that is giving us a larger platform to speak on these pressing issues before and after games, to make our stance known, whether it's defiantly with what it is you choose to wear on your uniform, which the league has embraced, or the constant messaging that we see from game to game in the NBA bubble. And that what better turn than to play the games that millions are tuning into and then immediately following, asking our opinion, to be able to speak on that platform, the larger platform, to be able to reach more people. That's a more consistent thing than not playing, in his opinion. Well, I read all the counters to that, and I understand that too. Affecting big business also exacts change, right? But boy, it is something to embrace and not knee-jerk respond to, but listen to. I think it really is. It's a very fascinating time that we're going through right now, and that includes the world of sport.
Yeah, I only have a few seconds, but I'd say that, to me, the term boycott is a little interesting in the NBA, given that the NBA has been so progressive on these issues.
Yeah, very.
The idea of a boycott sounds as though the players are saying no to the NBA, whereas the NBA, in large part, has been in lockstep with
the
its players in a
Mm-hmm.
way that the NFL certainly hasn't been, to the point that Goodell's on an apology tour these days.
Yes, he is.
Well,
that's what I mean. It's like we can have this debate. I feel like nobody's been more forward-thinking and progressive than Adam Silver. And by the way, if you withhold labor, it's not a boycott. That's a strike. And there are repercussions for strikes. And this is part of another larger conversation. So, because at some point, I hate to say it, money gets very, very involved in the conversation. Yeah. And on both sides, affecting money becomes a really the heightened issue.
I'm sure the chefs and security personnel didn't stop working in the bubble yesterday. Just my guess.
Let's talk some football. We'll do it next. Lita Kemper has been able to cover the Bucs, their practices, and that includes Tom Brady. We'll talk to him next. Boom! That sound means football is nearly upon us. Yes. Tampa Bay Buccaneers football, which you can hear right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. That's right. We've got the Bucks, home of Bucks. ESPN Tallahassee. And I don't know, Tom, are we doing pregame shows this year for the Bucks? I think so. We're going to obviously.
Do you mean the Scuttlebucks?
Well, the Scuttlebucks is a standard listen for all involved in fandom.
Oh, we're rolling that out, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we've got a lot of things that we're going to do surrounding the Bucks. It's an exciting time to be talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It is also important to note 2 weeks from today, the NFL starts. 2 weeks from today, games begin. That just doesn't – I know there's a lot on our mind right now. There are a lot of things on our mind. And that, that can include all the stuff we're seeing now with the demand for social change and the end to systemic racism and the social unrest we see and then, of course, the actual games themselves and schools starting back and all that. And after a while, things fall between the cracks, understandably, and then you look up and you're like, oh, damn, the NFL is about to start. This season is almost underway. Not that it's more important, but it's something we care about.
Well, 9 o'clock on Saturday, Central Arkansas, Austin Peay. There will be college football.
I almost still don't believe that's a thing. I know you say they're going to play. We'll see.
ESPN's got the game.
That music was our friend Lita Kemper, JoeBucksFan.com, the website's music. Let's bring him on now on the Phone Hero Hotline. Yeah, all guests appear via the Phone Hero Hotline. Phone Hero specializing in iPhone and iPad repair. 2 locations, 2915 Cary Forest Parkway and 833 West Gain Street. Online at PhoneHeroTLH.com. Lee, how you doing?
Hey, what's happening? I appreciate you bringing me on again, Jeff. And, you're right. I saw the college football schedule. It might have been last night or the day before, week 0, they call it, Austin Peay and Central Arkansas. I'm like, man, Central Arkansas will never be as popular as they will be a week from or this Saturday.
Yeah,
because everybody and their brother will be watching. Any remote football fan will be watching it because it's football. And unfortunately, that's the only game available. So, you got to take what you can get. And you're right about, all the things going on. And oh, by the way, there's a presidential election as well.
Yeah, throw that in the mix.
Everything slips, like you said, football slips between the cracks. And all of a sudden you look up and like, wait a minute, it's the end of August. Football's around the corner.
Yeah, and it's not like there weren't a bevy of things this offseason to get into, not the least of which affects the team that you cover, of course, and that's Tom Brady becoming the latest Tampa Bay Buccaneers starting quarterback. And, you've had unprecedented access to these practices. You've had an opportunity to watch this play out. I'm really just going to inquire today about the big picture stuff, Lee. I know we can get into details about certain elements of the team, certain segments on the team, certain areas where they've got to get better if they're going to make a deep push into the playoffs and maybe go to the Super Bowl, like the Philly fans certainly thought the day they acquired Tom Brady. But really, big picture, what's it like covering a camp in which Tom Brady's the quarterback?
The word that comes to mind when I saw Brady for the first time in practice, precision. He puts the ball right on people's hands in stride. It's unreal. I also have to keep checking myself to tell myself, wait a minute, you've seen one of maybe a half a dozen people who've been this good to ever walk the face of the earth. So, this is a rare guy you're seeing. You're not seeing Norm Snead, for example, as one goes. Or I'm seeing Mitch Trubisky here.
Right.
And that's what jumps to mind with Brady is precision. He throws a beautiful pass. I mean, it's just like you used to see on NFL films with the
slow motion spiral
in the frame. Uh-huh. That's what his balls look like. Or his passes, I should say.
Nicely done. We're going to use that clip forevermore. You just walked right into it. It was beautiful. I was about to yell before you got there. Football's Footballs. Thanks for the levity, sir. It will be used.
You can't pass up a good fastball down the middle, man.
Yeah, it was perfect. So have you had an opportunity to consistently interact and talk to the Golden Child here?
No, I have not, and there's a reason for that. But there is a funny story I have to tell you. Because of NFL protocols, we're not allowed to speak with the players whatsoever. Now,
Right.
They have Zoom teleconferences after each practice. The Bucs will pick 4 or 5 guys, including an assistant coach, including Arians, and they'll do a Zoom press conference. But unfortunately, this year, there's no locker room access, no access to the players one-on-one or in person. You can obviously watch practice, and that's about it. And I have a fear that may be the norm, virus or no virus, next year. I truly believe that. However, the first practice I was at, and this year we have assigned standing places, like standing room only,
Right.
and there's social distancing, 10 feet apart from another photographer or reporter or whatever, and you don't always get a good angle. One practice, the Bucs came up to me about halfway through the practice, like, "You want a better angle?" Which that's never happened to me before. So yeah, I could use a better angle because I couldn't see a darn thing, and they let me go where I had a beautiful angle under the goalpost. So that was really cool. But anyway, the first practice I went to, the place I was supposed to stand was right in front of the offensive line drill, right in front. I mean, I could spit on them, and I mean that. They were maybe 4 feet from me, if that. And Ali Marpet's coming back. I could do a rotation. Ali Marpet's walking toward me. He sees me and goes, "Hey, Lee, how you doing?" Well, talking to players at a practice is a major no-no, strictly verboten. You don't do that. And so, I mean, I don't want to be rude to Ali. He's always nice to me. And I look around. I don't see any Bucs media relations people. I'm like, say, "Hey, Ali, how you doing?" And I mentioned that to Jason Light, and he roared because that's a major no. You don't do that talking to players.
So, Lee, let me ask you this. First of all, I want you to break the rules again for us, and next time do that with Brady. Just
That'd be me, yeah.
Yeah, to watch the swarm come over you and to see how quickly you get escorted off the field for having the temerity to reach out to speak to Tom Brady. That would be fun.
That would make national news.
Yeah, but B, I want to ask you this because I've gone through lately, especially, and I've been like a lot of people catching up on what's going on with the Bucs and going to JoeBucksFan.com, and I saw where there was a post there about how I think it was Albert Breer from SI.com had been in camp, and he noted. And I just want your thoughts on this because I think it's an interesting observation. I don't know what sort of validity there is to this, again, because they don't have injury reports at training camp. But I am kind of curious about the fact that he noted there's been that the Brady's receivers seem to have taken better care of their bodies this offseason in preparation for working with Tom Brady. There are no soft tissue injuries or anything else, and he hadn't seen that in other camps around the NFL. Is this something that is kind of familiar with people that talk about what it's like to work with Brady, that every player has a heightened awareness of taking care of themselves?
Possibly. He does bring a heightened awareness to players. And, he's got street cred. It's simple as that. He's got street cred. He's got rings. It took a few weeks for the players, they called it the awe factor, to get over there. Like, oh! They see Tom Brady like, "Ah!" Arians joked about it. He laughed about it. It took maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks for them to get over it. And there was a Bucs had a rookie linebacker. He actually went on Twitter like, "Tom Brady said hi to me." So there was that element. But again, Tom Brady has street cred. The players know him. They know that he has high expectations, which should go without saying with 6 rings, 9 Super Bowl appearances, and they expect Brady expects the players to do X, Y, and Z. And they're like, wow, I don't want Tom Brady to be mad at me. I don't want to get on his bad side. I better do whatever I have to do, whatever he wants to make sure I please him and make sure I practice better and play better. Now, what I don't know, because unfortunately we're not allowed to get access to the players, what I don't know is, obviously Brady fronts a nutritional program.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
And they sell nutritions as well. And I don't know, maybe those players got on those nutritions or they're using this trainer, which kind of got the Patriots a little hacked off when that was happening up in New England. I don't know if that's the case or not, or just the fact that these guys are motivated to please Brady and do as he says. But no question Scotty Miller is a better player. And you can sort of see that Scotty Miller is one of Brady's favorite targets. You can see Justin Watson's a little bit better, and Brady's throwing to him a lot in the slot that I've noticed, a lot of short passes. So not only is Brady having a mental effect on the players, he's having a physical effect, and you can see certain traits in receivers Brady likes as far as, short pass, I'm going to throw to Watson. Sideline pass, I'm throwing to Mike Evans and Scotty Miller. Chris Godwin, I'm just throwing to him. Gronkowski, I'm just throwing to him. Brate, I'm throwing sideline. So you can start to see that develop, patterns develop, what he likes in certain receivers and what he prefers to throw to those receivers.
I find all this fascinating, especially when I take it in conjunction with the fact that, look, there's no getting around. I can be the biggest Jameis fan in the world. It doesn't matter. The fact is the players, the receivers that you're referring to have been quoted one by one on a number of occasions, about how inspired they are, how Evans is talking about Brady's going to make me a Hall of Famer and all this other stuff. I mean, clearly they take to the guy. They clearly not only respect him, but there's something that he does, whether that's the accuracy you're describing, whether it's the, you said it earlier, some guys throw a pretty ball. Some guys can get it there. It's an ugly ball, but they can get it to the spot. But it's easier, obviously, to catch a pretty ball. So is this what we're talking about, just accuracy, and putting it on the numbers where guys can catch and run in stride? What is it that has these guys so effusive about Tom Brady in just training camp?
I think it's a variety of things. Obviously, it's the accuracy. It's also the ability to get yak when they're hitting guys in stride. Evans has never been a yak guy, and I've always kind of was uncomfortable when people used to knock him for that. I said, this guy's putting up Hall of Fame numbers. Quit nitpicking,
Right.
You can go out and get a guy that gets yacked. He won't be the same player as Evans. Come on. But Evans, I think, will get more yak this year. Scotty Miller should. Brady does provide his receivers the opportunity to get yacked because of his precision. But I also think it's the street cred. I really think that's got a lot to do with it. Again, the guy's been in 9 Super Bowls. The Bucs haven't been in the playoffs since 2008.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I really think that has a lot to do with it as well. Now, one player I haven't spoken about, who at times this summer has been just freaking outstanding. I mean, dominated practice. And I do mean dominated. And he was a guy about a few months ago, I wasn't sure it was going to be on this roster. O.J. Howard. O.J. Howard's a new man. What we're talking about, a guy that's re-energized and motivated and locked in. He wasn't that kind of guy before. Now he's almost like a different person, much less a different player. And he, at times, is absolutely dominating the Bucs defense in practice. There was one practice, I was with a guy from a local radio station down here. I mean, we were social distancing. He's about 10 feet from me. And Howard was just going crazy in practice. He must have caught about 8 or 9 balls, all of them 20, 25, 30 yards downfield. One was a 40-yard touchdown. And this guy turned to me and he said, Lee, they can't stop Howard. They can't stop him. And I'm like, yeah, I see that. And Howard is like a new man. He's just a completely different person. And if this guy wakes up and plays the way everybody thought he could play when he was drafted, look out.
So I see we can't kick still.
Mm-hmm.
One of these days, man.
Well, the AAF legend who played for the Orlando Spurriers, if he's given a drafted kicker an opportunity, that scares me. This is a pet peeve of mine going, Jeff. You're going to get me wound up here. Last year I did some research. And, Arians said this, the south end zone at Raymond James Stadium, which I refer to as the den of depression because they can't win there. They can't kick in the south end zone because of the wind and all that. And initially I thought, well, that's a bunch of BS. The south end zone in Pittsburgh is worse.
Right.
You could barely kick a 48-yard field goal there. But then I remembered Cutter. It was like an, oh, by the way comment, like a throwaway comment. I remember Cutter said, he goes, there's research that shows that kicking the south end zone at Raymond James is one of the hardest field goals to kick in the NFL. Like, wow. Excuse me. Then I did some research and I found out last year dome kickers kicked better than Matt Gay in Raymond James Stadium. And I mean, there's no excuse for that. If that place is so awful, like Arians claims it is, and Cutter before him claimed it was, then tell me why a dome kicker who kicks at minimum half his games with no wind, no sun, no nothing, perfect conditions, can come into Raymond James and kick better than a guy who's supposed to be kicking, or supposed to know how to kick there all the time. You tell me that. The Bucs, for whatever reason, whatever profile they have to judge kickers, to value kickers on, to evaluate kickers on, whatever that profile is, someone needs to corrupt that file because it's terrible. Ever since Lovie Smith came here, this team cannot find a kicker, and it's really it's not just irresponsible. There's no excuse for it. It's unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable. And why? I mean, it's to the point where the Glazers should just pick out the freaking NFL media guide and eeny, meeny, miny, mo, pick any team and call them up and say, how do you guys pick a kicker? And ask them. They'll be just as well off.
Yeah, but
Lee,
let me interrupt you for a second because here's what I think is interesting about that. It's not as if they didn't pick guys that were really successful in college. I mean, look, I know Matt Gay was a fifth-round pick in 2019. Aguayo was the best kicker in college football for a stretch in history. In the history of the game. This was a guy that couldn't miss in huge situations for a long time at FSU, and he got to Tampa, couldn't kick. Now, I argued about that's why you don't take a kicker that high. You put undue pressure on them. Once they start missing because they feel the pressure, then they begin to fold, and it becomes a different animal altogether. Who knows if that's true? That's not true. I'm just speculating about the psychology of it all. That said, I do think there is something to coming to Tampa Bay, whether you're a first-round pick or an undrafted free agent as a kicker, you feel the weight of all the failures. And until somebody comes in here and is as loosey-goosey as the Red Sox were down 3-0 to the Yankees and found a way to claw all the way back and reverse the curse, we're not going to see successful kickers in Tampa. I really think that there's this omnipresent sense of weight and albatross that's around Bucs kickers who know that their predecessors have failed in every one of these moments. I can't help but think that that's true because these were all guys that could really kick prior to getting to Tampa.
That is an interesting point, and everybody talks about how kickers are unique. Let's put it that way. Some of them are head cases. So what you're saying could be true. Now, I swear I read this in a magazine article maybe 2 years ago. It might have been Bleacher Report. It was a long-form feature on Aguayo. And Aguayo confessed that after the Bucs drafted him, he's a big golf nut.
Yeah. And
he noticed that Tiger Woods would always tinker with his swing. And he thought to himself, so Aguayo said in his future story, he thought to himself, well, if a guy like Tiger Woods is always tinkering with his swing to make himself better, maybe I should work on my approach to kicking. And he was never the same after that. In other words, he broke what didn't need. He broke what didn't need to be fixed.
Yeah. Well, and many people, would point to Tiger and say he's unique in a sense that he did do that not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times and still found success. Most people can't do that. You're talking about transcendent generational athletes. And
exactly.
in the case of Roberto Aguayo, perhaps he's certainly not that. And, yeah, it is amazing. I don't know why he chose to do that, but he did, and we still don't have a kicker is what it sounds like. So I'm with you.
Here's what Arians said. It was pretty funny, I thought. And I thought this, too, and Arians just confirmed it for me. I think last year, and I'm as guilty as the next person, I think everybody succumbed to the siren song of the big leg. Gay comes in, he's kicking 55, 60-yarders consistently, albeit inside the Glazer shed. He's booming these kicks. I mean, booming. And I think everybody fell in love with that big leg and forgot it's about consistency at the 35 or the 23, not necessarily the 55. And yesterday, Arians was asked about Gay and kicking long and being consistent. He said, we're not going to kick a 55-yard field goal unless it's the end of the half. I wish you would have thought about that last year. But I'm as guilty as the next person. I fell in love with that big leg of Gay's. Everybody did. There was videos of him kicking 60-yarders, 65-yarders, went viral on social media. So I can't really hound Arians too much about that because I was just guilty. I did the same thing. But I think the Bucs realized what Arians said. We need consistency more than we need a 55-yard field goal.
Talking with Lee DeKemper, JoeBucksFan.com. Real quick question for you. Gronk, give me the latest on him. Has he put the weight back on? Does he look like an NFL football player again? Is he emerging as an elite weapon? Any semblance to what we saw of him in his heyday?
Yes. Simply put, yes. Everybody, well, not everybody, but so many people, when they would see Gronk doing his various appearances for his various business ventures and entertainment outposts, that, oh, man, he slimmed down. He lost a lot of weight. If that's the case, I would love to actually seen him in New England with only a T-shirt on. This is a big dude, and he looks the part. He really does. He's the safety valve for Brady. He's everything he was before. He's big. He can block. I saw him tear up a sled the other day. It's just a sled, but still, he toyed with that sled like it was a child's toy. He's Gronk. Now, the trick is, and I don't know if there's a right answer. This was a subject that Arians talked about yesterday. Is he going to be on a pitch count or not? And not just him, but there's other players. Evans, Godwin. Is he going to be on a pitch count? What I mean by that is, the reason why he was out of the NFL because his body was beat to hell.
Yeah, break it
and
down.
That's why he retired. His body physically couldn't handle it. For example, his brother was on a podcast, or his brother has a podcast. I guess about a month ago on one of his podcasts, he said after the Patriots beat the Falcons in the Super Bowl, that was Gronk's last game, Gronk couldn't even go to the Super Bowl celebration party because he was so beat up. They had to have people, they being the Patriots, and his brother was included in this, they actually had to hold him up so he could use a urinal. He could not even stand to use a urinal. He was that beat up. And the question was with Arians and with Gronk as well, are you going to be on a pitch count because you want to keep the guy healthy? You don't want to get him beat up right away. And I don't know if there's a right answer. You need to win games in September just as much as you need to win games in December. And you can't win games if the good players aren't on the field. But if those players aren't available in December, you may not win those games, and you still may not make the playoffs. So I don't know if there's a right answer where you put a guy, he's only going to be so many snaps or not, or if you play him full-time. Gronk wants to play full-time. He absolutely said he goes, forget this pitch count stuff. I'm out there, man. But I don't know what the right answer is, if there's a right answer. I really don't know that because all those games, it's the NFL. Every game's important. September, October, doesn't matter.
Final question, Lee. Does practice look and sound different with Tom Brady running the offense?
Yes. Enthusiasm. I see enthusiasm. Cam Brate made a hell of a catch 2 days ago for a touchdown in the corner of the end zone. Mike Evans came running from midfield. That's a way, boy. That's how you catch it. He jumped on top of him. Brady made a back shoulder pass to Godwin for a touchdown. Here's 43-year-old man Brady, who's been through 6 Super Bowl wins. The sucker jogs down the field, jumps on Godwin, hugs him like he just won another Super Bowl, keeps patting him on the helmet. I hear chatter. When the defense makes a play, they freak out as if they won a game. Enthusiasm, just significant enthusiasm. That's the best way I could describe it. There's chatter. There's guys yelling, positive reinforcement. It's really something to hear. You can hear Brady, and when there's a penalty, you hear Brady scream "effing penalty" like that. It renewed enthusiasm for the team that I may not have seen before. Really, usually training camp is drudgery, and you don't see guys usually having fun. These dudes look like a bunch of college guys out on the quad playing football on a Sunday afternoon.
So, I guess I lied. One more question then. Has Brady, because Brady's famous for this, and there's nothing wrong with it, and I used to want Jameis to do it, but he wouldn't. Has Brady screamed anybody down specifically for either half-stepping, not executing properly, being in the wrong spot, you name it? Has he screamed anybody down specifically?
Not necessarily screamed anybody down, but for example, his big thing is, and you can hear him yelling. I don't know if yelling is the right word, but you can hear him telling this to receivers twice, 3 times a practice. Keep pumping your arms. Keep pumping your arms, because apparently, if receivers have a tendency when they break on a route to stop pumping their arms. That's a dead giveaway to the cornerbacks. Oh, something's happening, and you hear him telling Watson that. You hear him telling Scotty Miller that. Sometimes he doesn't even say it, but you can see him looking at the receiver and pumping his own arms. Like, hey, man, keep it up, keep it up. So he's very involved. If that's what you're asking, does he berate anybody? I haven't seen him berate anybody yet, but he's very much involved. He's almost like an assistant coach on the field. He's very involved with players. Hey, you did this right. You didn't run this route right. You got to pump your arms. I want you to break off your route at this point. He's very, very active in that respect.
Sir, we will bring you back very, very soon because the season is nearly upon us, and I'm excited about it. I haven't even broached the subject of the defense yet. We've got to touch on any number of things. I will in due time, but I've taken enough of yours for today. Be well, good sir.
Hey, Jeff and Tom, thanks again. It's always my pleasure. Have a good one.
You too. Take care. Lee DeKemper, JoeBucksFan.com, the website. And, man, we are just beginning to touch on the start of a season that is 2 weeks out. That's it. Just 2 weeks out. It's hard to imagine. I might also note that if you go to JoeBucksFan.com, you'll have an opportunity. We see a big old picture that says Joe Bolts Fan with Tom Lang. Click on that sucker and you can listen to that podcast. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
So many mouths to feed on the farm.
Traditionally, I would be giving you Those That Reside on the Bump, as brought to you by our friends at Wooden Glass, a family-owned and operated business serving Tallahassee and the Big Bend area since 1945. They are Tallahassee's first family in glass replacement. Highly respected, obviously, for their quality of installation, both residential and commercial. Wooden Glass, 222-5781, 222-5781. But I'm not going to go with Those That Reside on the Bump tonight because we just don't know how thorough we could be for these later games, for games in general, over the coming days. We'll continue to monitor the situation as we have throughout the day, but there's a chance games aren't going to be played. That's true, really, as we look on. Tom and I could talk about the National Hockey League right now. Well, it is incredible to tune into these games. You've said it all along. You've championed that Denver, Colorado series, and
Stars, Avs,
yeah. So we've taken the over, and we've had a lot of fun with the Big Daddy Jay.
But the way they get to the over is fun. It's not like, it's a whistle fest and there's 20 power plays and by default you're going to get 6 goals. It's just a lot of skill. There's a lot to watch. And the uniforms, too. The clash of that mint green of Dallas along with Colorado's Mountain Man color scheme. Dude, it's from
Dallas. Why did I say Denver? Anyhow, I'm thinking of the NBA. Yeah,
because Dallas has been paying out for you, and then Dallas has been. It's just from top to bottom. Those games. The only bad thing about the games is Pierre Maguire's between the glass. Other than that, it's pretty much perfect.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been an interesting time. I think for all of us, we've spent time talking about it today. If you really think about what you now, listen, I'm not even talking about the politics of any of this. I'm not talking about where you stand on individual basis or a case or any of these other things. I'm just talking about the 10,000-mile view here, just looking at the bigger picture. I just think about what we're bearing witness to. We have a tendency to hyper-focus on the things that affect us now and to conflate that with it being the biggest ever, the greatest thing we've ever seen, the biggest moment. It could be a player that we feel the need to lavish and talk about their place in the game all the time. We do this all the time. And storylines, we do the same thing. When we see political and social upheaval, we think, oh, this is unprecedented. This is unlike anything we've ever seen, conveniently forgetting about any number of very significant protests in the Olympics, of course, anything that you saw in the 60s, any number of walkouts.
How about a Georgia Tech game in 1918 where fans are wearing masks in the stands?
Right. There you go. How fitting, right? Yeah, so we act like things like this have never happened, that we haven't seen this level of commitment to social change, to the kinds of protests that we're watching in our streets. Well, yeah, they happened. They happened in the 60s. They've happened before that. It's not the first time. It won't be the last. It feels important because it is important. And we're watching it come to the sports world, and that makes people uncomfortable because people like to escape from the overwhelming seriousness of life through sport. And so they get very uncomfortable when those aspects of life spill over into what they deem as their form of entertainment. But, of course, it's still a business. And this is affected. All of these things, all businesses are affected by this kind of change or this kind of, I think, involvement, enlightenment, focus, you name it. But I was thinking about what we saw in this case, okay, I'll say it, as sports fans last night. So if you just use TNT's platform for the NBA, right, and you use that as the nightcap for the day that was, like a lot of people do, I do. When I get home, if there are games on, I turn to that because, A, I like that show. I think all those guys do a great job. And a lot of times I want to get caught up. I was doing the golf show last night, and then the Lightning were running away with their game. So, you texted me, and you're like, rare night of relaxation watching hockey, and I thought, okay, well, I was kind of oblivious to what was happening because I was so focused on that golf show. I thought, well, I'll go home and sit down and get caught up on the NBA. I'll get caught up on baseball. I'll get caught up on what's going on, and I'll tune in to the personalities there on TNT's NBA show. And in retrospect, between Major League Soccer, Major League Baseball, the WNBA, women's tennis, that happened too, the NBA, those leagues or parts of those leagues in an effort to highlight another police shooting, violence against black people, those protests led to not one, not two, not three, 4 separate sports leagues in one night, in one day, walking out. We just watched this will be talked about. This is documented. This is something we will reflect on 10, 15, 20, 40 years from now. This will be something, I'm just talking about historically speaking, you're witnessing not a first-time event, not something that is unprecedented. In some regards it is, but not completely so. We just cited examples where we've seen certainly a press for social change, for the end to systemic racism, to the change of laws, the civil rights movement, you name it. There have been significant moments in the world of sport and outside of it that connect the two prior to last night, but don't overlook what you just witnessed. The magnitude of that is significant. It's not unprecedented, but it is significant. I don't know that we thought, this is all happening simultaneous to a pandemic. I think what I'm getting at is it can all feel overwhelming. It could feel like a weight, like you can't breathe. Is there a place to turn, quote, where I can escape the weight of the significance of these issues? No, not really. No, got to take them head on together. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, but it's also a tiring thing, and I'm not saying that from a place of
it's
not understanding what it is to be somebody who is in a minority community in this country, which is more exhausting than I could possibly imagine. What I'm saying is 2020 specifically, the fatigue factor.
Oh, fair. Yeah,
you've got idiots on both sides of the political spectrum yelling at each other.
Yeah.
You just had a Category 5 hurricane
hit Louisiana,
Texas. That's like the 5th top story of the day.
I know, it's unreal.
It's 2020.
Yeah.
You've got, movements have been going on for months.
Yeah.
You've got the pandemic. You've got fears of unemployment reaching heights that we haven't seen since the Great Depression.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to dismiss that feeling of being overwhelmed that some people have, and that feeling that there's no way out, to take a break, even if for a moment. And I certainly wasn't belittling things that matter so much more than sport. I just mean that when you're taking this in, and when you feel overwhelmed, and when you feel like maybe wherever it is you turn to as a last bastion of reprieve for a day in which the stressors overwhelmed you for any number of reasons, could be work-related, I don't know, that I think it's easier, even as it relates to sports, to say, no, I get the opportunity to witness this. I get the chance to digest this, think about what this means, to kind of compare and contrast. And I'm 49. If you're 20, you're viewing this through a different prism. If you're 80, you're viewing this through a different lens. I get it. But I think it's helpful, even in sport, even where we would normally be talking about who's on the bump or making a Big Daddy J bet,
Suck it, Miami.
Yeah, where we would be doing something
that
frivolous.
Felt good.
Yeah, where we would be doing something frivolous. Even in that, it's okay to be like, no, man. Yeah, there's a lot here. But I get to see this. I get to watch the change happen before my eyes. That's a good thing. I think at the end of the day, there will be bad things, but there will be really good things that come from this, and we're watching it play out in real time. It's okay to think of it that way. Good work out of you. Good work, Matthew. Be well, everybody. Have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow.